We're about 2 months away from finding out who gets the number one overall draft pick, and there's 15 teams that are eligible. So let's just get into which teams are eligible because yeah, they traded their draft pick, but so the Coyotes keep their pick if it's in the top three. So if the Coyotes win the draft lottery, then Taylor Hall takes a bow and goes, "You're welcome." That draft pick, of course, belongs to New Jersey currently. The Canucks keep their pick if they lose the play-in against Minnesota, so that pick also belongs to New Jersey currently. So New Jersey not really hoping that those things both happen, although then it defers to later, right? And then they're like, hey, next year could be fun for us. The Canes, they keep the Leafs or their own pick. So they made a trade with the New York Rangers at the deadline where they traded a first rounder, and basically it's either their first rounder or Toronto's, whichever one is later. So the New York Rangers are not eligible for the number one overall pick. That's why I've got 15 on the board instead of 16. The Rangers do not have the option of picking first overall. It's not a thing. The Islanders, they get to keep their pick if it's in the top three. So Ottawa's going to be interested to see what happens because if the Islanders end up picking first, it's lottery protected. That's got to smart a little bit for Ottawa a day after we watched them in the draft lottery. Here I am kind of pointing out, hey, it could get worse for Ottawa fans. The Penguins, they get to keep their pick if they lose the play-in. The option is there to keep their pick if they lose the play-in, and I'm guessing that if they get to pick first overall, they probably keep that pick. And that's Minnesota who has that pick. So Minnesota could lose the play-in and end up having the Canucks pick go to New Jersey. And after they win the play-in, the Penguins, if they win their play-in, they keep that pick. And yeah, we'll see what happens. So again, even knowing who's eligible for this is going to change between now and when the actual draft lottery happens. But I thought about it. I thought, which of the 15 teams needs this player the most? Which team needs Lafreniere the most? And keeping in mind, I'm wearing a Pettersson jersey for two reasons. One, Vancouver could still be in this draft lottery. And two, when the Canucks lost that draft lottery back in 2017 and Canuck fans went crazy, they still came out of that draft with a pretty good player. So losing the draft lottery doesn't necessarily mean you're going to lose the draft. That's an important distinction, and I'll do a video on that soon enough. So my picks for which team I'd like to see win the draft lottery, which teams, and there's definitely, I mean, I'm wearing Canucks because there's some bias when it comes to the Canucks, and I'm admitting that up front. So the team I'd least like to see get the number one draft pick is Edmonton. Not because I don't like Edmonton, but because Edmonton has Connor McDavid. They have Draisaitl. They have Yamamoto, looks like he's going to be excellent. You're going to add Lafreniere to that group? Dear Lord. There's just the idea of Lafreniere being added to that group. It's just, that would be, here you go. And that if they don't win a Stanley Cup with that group, they'll never win a Stanley Cup again. So the Oilers are the lowest on the list for that reason. Also the reason why I have Toronto at 14th. Toronto has Matthews. They have Marner. They have Tavares. They have Nylander. They have a pretty good forward group. If Toronto ended up with that number one draft pick, that's a situation that I'd be like, they don't really need him, though. So again, this video isn't about like or dislike. It's about where do I think would be a great place to see him end up. Number 13 is Pittsburgh. Now, why would Pittsburgh be above Toronto and Edmonton? Because we know Crosby's getting older. Malkin's getting older. They're not going to play forever. Pittsburgh gets Lafreniere. Yep, everybody's going to lose their mind. Everybody's going to go crazy. I know. But, again, Pittsburgh could definitely use another really solid, young, up-and-coming forward. We've talked about their prospects group before and how they're the Pittsburgh prospects, because they've been good for so long, their prospect pool is kind of shallow. So, there's that. Number 12, I went with Carolina. Why Carolina? Because you've got Sebastian Aho, you've got Svechnikov, you've got Teravainen. You've got a really good young forward core. And I don't know that Carolina needs more explosive offense. Honestly, and this gets asked of me a lot, I think Carolina's just that one really excellent goaltender away from being a top contender in the East. So for me, Carolina comes in at 12. And if you want to take this as a power rankings, you go right on ahead. Go right on ahead, you crazy kids. Number 11, I went with Florida. Florida has a lot of offense. They're very good at scoring, and even if even if Mike Hoffman moves on at the end of this year, they still have a pretty solid offensive group. So, I think Florida doesn't really need. Again, this is about which team needs the services of Alexis Lafreniere. Number 10, I went with Winnipeg. Winnipeg is a great young forward group as well, and there isn't really a need for Winnipeg to necessarily have Lafreniere amongst its forward group. So yeah, for me, Winnipeg at number 10. And remember, according to where the balls fell yesterday, Winnipeg would have got that pick. They would have got that pick. So for Winnipeg fans, today has to be kind of one of those, well, we have a shot at maybe winning a Stanley Cup, but we could have had Lafreniere. This sucks. Number 9, Vancouver. It'd be great to see Lafreniere in Vancouver. They've got Pettersson. They've got Hughes on the blue line. They've got Horvat up front. Honestly, Vancouver's doing well. Now, the one reason it would be nice to see Vancouver win this is because it would really quickly put out all this talk about, well, the league has its favorites. Vancouver is definitely not a league favorite. So if Vancouver won the draft lottery, that would silence a lot of that criticism right up front. So yeah, Vancouver doesn't really necessarily need him as much, but he's going to be a pretty excellent forward, and I wouldn't mind seeing him. There's a couple of good forwards in Vancouver. It'd be great to see Lafreniere playing with. Just saying. Number 8, Chicago. Yes, I know a lot of people are going to be upset if Chicago gets that drawing and they get that number 1 overall pick. Here's the thing with Chicago. It is a team in decline. It is a team where most of their core is kind of over the hill. Dylan Strome took a step back this year. Whether or not he's going to, get back to where he was last year, next year, that's definitely something that's up in the air. So while, yeah, I mean, if Chicago ends up being the one that gets picked for the draft lottery, I'm going to be, yay, Chicago gets the best player. But at the same time, just because they've been a good team for a long time doesn't mean that they don't deserve to have a good draft pick. Look where they were in the standings in the West. They were number 12 in the West. This is a team that was in decline. And yes, you should be favoring teams in decline getting those top draft picks. And the teams at the bottom should be getting those top draft picks. This is kind of how that works. So I can't really get too mad about Chicago if they get the number 1 pick. Number 7, Nashville. Now, Nashville you could look at and say, well, Nashville doesn't really need them. I would counter that with, that kind of talent up front is exactly what Nashville needs. Nashville's had a great blue line and solid goaltending for a long time. That explosive superstar player, has Nashville ever really had that complete, like, I know Forsberg's great and everything, but I'm talking about like that guy who can transform the game. And everything I've read on Alexis Lafreniere says he'll be able to do that. So if Nashville loses their play-in series against Arizona, that would be a pretty good consolation prize right there. And I can't get too mad if Nashville wins that spot. Number 6, Calgary. Now, Calgary has some very good young forwards, yes. But again, with Gaudreau, maybe having a Lafreniere there would take the pressure off of Johnny Gaudreau, and he can find himself a bit of a rebound spot that way. He did not have a fantastic year this year. I think maybe he overachieved a bit last year. Maybe this year is more indicative of the player he is. But Calgary, I think it'd be actually kind of fun to see him in a Calgary jersey, because again, as a Vancouver fan, I don't cheer for teams that Vancouver has a rivalry with to be bad. I like to see them actually be pretty good teams, because then it means more when you beat them. Number 5, New York Islanders. The Islanders had a pretty solid regular season. They had a solid regular season next year. They have Barzal, but what Lafreniere would do for that organization and do for their offense, that would actually be a lot of fun to see the Islanders actually win that draft lottery. And again, I know people are going to get mad about whoever wins it now, because that's how the internet works nowadays. But I honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing the Islanders win it. Number 4, Minnesota. Minnesota needs that transformative talent. Kaprizov's coming over, may very well be that guy. But again, there's maybe, could be, we'll see. Everything says he's going to be excellent, but until he's on North American ice, we'll see what happens. But you add Lafreniere to that, and all of a sudden Minnesota looks like they may very well be a contender soon. Number 3, Arizona. Lafreniere is exactly what they need, pure offense. And if they keep Rick Tocchet into next year, and if Lafreniere struggles out of the gate, Tocchet is gone. Like, this is a situation where if Arizona gets him, and he turns out to be everything everybody thinks he is, and Lafreniere has any kind of bobble or the team's still not winning, That's it. They're going to make a change behind the bench. Not only that, but just think of the marketing you can do with him in the lineup. That would be tremendous for local marketing in Arizona. And again, if Arizona wins the draft lottery, people are going to say, haha, see, it's rigged in favor of Arizona. I would counter with, how many draft lotteries did they win before Taylor Hall got there? None. It's rigged in favor of Taylor Hall. Number 2, Columbus. Columbus could really use a superstar player. Columbus has great goaltending, great defense. And boy howdy, would it ever take the sting out of losing Panarin if they lost the play-in round, and then, ta-da, here he is. Here's Alexis Lafreniere. And that would be a huge boost for the Columbus Blue Jackets, right? So, yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing him in Columbus. I wouldn't mind seeing Columbus win the draft lottery. And that means number 1, I agree, Montreal. Montreal had a miserable season. So if they lose that play-in against Pittsburgh, and they probably do, let's be honest. I mean, while parity is the thing in the NHL, in all likelihood, in a 5-game series against the Pittsburgh Penguins, Montreal probably loses it. Lafreniere, French player, potentially the best player drafted since Crosby, potentially anyways. It would be great to see the Montreal Canadiens get that top-notch player they've been looking for, that I think they sort of envisioned Drouin to be, and he hasn't quite got there. That Domi, it looked like might be, but maybe not when they got him for Galchenyuk. Galchenyuk was also one that was supposed to be, didn't quite get there. It'd be nice to see a guy come in that's 99% guaranteed will be that big star player for them. Montreal could use that offensive boost. You got Romanov coming in on the blue line. Montreal suddenly looks a heck of a lot better. And Carey Price would probably be a happier camper that way as well. The overall picture for the Montreal Canadiens is rosy for their future anyways, but you throw in Lafreniere when you've already got Caulfield coming up, Montreal gets great. Like I said, I mean, I'm a Boston Bruins fan, I'm a Vancouver fan, but if Montreal ends up winning that draft lottery, that would be huge. That'd be huge for that organization, and as a Boston fan, bring it on. I love the rivalry much more when Montreal is a really good team. I know it's easy to kind of chuckle when the team that's your usual rival aren't very good, but it does mean a lot more when you beat them and they're pretty good. So I would love to see Montreal win that draft lottery, but let me know who you'd like to see win that draft lottery. And again, it's one of these 15 teams on the board. Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video, and hey, thank you guys so much for watching. I will talk to you again soon.